Well, welcome to State of Mind Talks, the new podcast series from State of Mind Sport. This is a series exploring transitions, the emotional and mental side of confronting and going through major change. I'm George Riley, and each episode I'll be chatting to a familiar name from the world of sport. And this week's guest is one of Wales' all-time sporting greats, a former Great Britain Rugby League international, a Warrington Wolves all-time record point scorer, and three-time Challenge Cup winning captain as well, Lee Briers. Great to see you. How are you, Lee?
I'm great, thanks, George. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to a good chat.
No, it's always good to talk to you and good to see you, and especially right now. I mentioned transitions at the start, and that's kind of where we are right now with you, because you're contemplating a kind of a next step and a next chapter in your life.
Sure am, yes. Obviously, with what's going on at Warrington, obviously I'm not going to be there after this year, so it's probably the biggest transition I'm going to have to make as a grown up. So I made one when I was younger, going from Saints to Warrington. But other than that, I've kind of been safe in the knowledge that I've always had a job. So yeah, it's scary times and exciting times at the same time.
Now, I would normally start at the beginning when I do these chats, start at the beginning of the story and kind of work your way through. Given the nature of this series and where we are now, I'll start with that present, because you mentioned it. It's not just leaving a job. It's a 25-year association you have with a club, a town, a place of work. And you're going to be walking away later this year, leaving your current role as assistant coach. You mentioned a couple of things about being kind of scary times, but in a general sense, how are you feeling about everything that's happened in the last few weeks and where it might lead?
I suppose it's happened in stages of the realization. I kind of knew that it was my time was coming to an end. The way things are done about, but you still don't know for sure till you hear them words. And it was upsetting. Obviously, I've got a lot of emotional ties to the club. 25 years it's over half my life. So all I've ever known really is Warrington. So first probably phase of that was shock and dealing with them emotions of anxiety, worried about what's going to happen in the future, to quickly go into the next stage of actually, I'm a really positive person. So what can be next? Where this going to lead? Is it going to be the making of me? And then putting a plan in place. So I'm at the point now where I'm still anxious a bit. Still don't know what's happening, but I'm really excited for what could be, and whatever that may be. So I've probably come to terms with it now, I think, and I'm just looking forward to whatever's next for myself.
And in terms of that period, you mentioned shock, anxiety, worry, and how upset you are. How did you find out? How and when was that news delivered to you? And you made it kind of very clear you were told. Just take me into that. I don't know if it was a meeting, phone call, and I want a sense of just how you were feeling and what exactly happened.
Yeah, basically, obviously Darryl Powell got. I think Darryl Powell got announced, did he? And then as the performance staff, I had a one-on-one meeting with the CEO, and got told basically then whether you were staying or whether you was going. I was first in the meeting, first one in, and first to be told, which I kind of knew was coming. But again, you don't expect it, and it was just as simple as Darryl Powell's coming and he wants to bring his own staff, and there's not going to be a role for you going forward at the club. So that's all I can probably remember, if I'm being honest. It wasn't a meeting what lasted more than 2 minutes. I was probably in a daze, to be fair. And if it would have lasted more, I wouldn't have knew what was going on anyway. So it was just kind of get out of there and kind of take a couple of deep breaths and kind of phone my agent, phone my family, and move forward with that.
Was there any anger? I'm not saying there should have been, but that's a very natural human emotion when something happens that is out of our control and not necessarily what we want.
Yeah, you know me, George. I'm an honest person, and listen, of course there was anger. I was losing my job, and these emotions, they all run through you when something you don't want to hear happens. Was I anger to the club? There was no anger in a way of, you know, this, that, and the other. It was just all the emotions running through you. And that's life. That's part of disappointments, and life's all about, you know, how you come back from disappointments.
Does it? From my point of view, looking in, it kind of underlines the precarious nature of working in professional sport. Very much like, you know, the industry that I've been working in, you know, professional broadcasting. A company can get a new boss and they don't like your face or your voice, and it might not be anything you've done, but suddenly you're out of a job. Very much more so in this instance, that it's absolutely nothing you've done. You've got no control. It's just a case of a new man and a new team, and there's literally nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, very much so. You know, Darryl Powell doesn't owe me anything. You know, it's only fair that he has his own say on who's on his staff and obviously he's got a trusted team who's worked with him. I've got no problem with that. You know, when you sit down and you take a breath, it's part of the game. And again, it's Darryl Powell's prerogative to bring whoever he wants in. I'm in the same game. Further down the line, I might have to do what's happened there. So it's just part of rugby league. It's part of any coaching setup that actually you could be out of a job if somebody else comes in. It's the nature of the beast, and I know what I'm getting myself into. I suppose it's just hard because of the time frame I've been with the club, I suppose.
And just one more question on kind of this element of what we're discussing. I'm interested in how it might compare to the emotions you felt as a player when you were delivered similar bad news, being left out for big games, those setbacks. I remember talking to Danny Maguire when he was left out of his first big Challenge Cup final, and how badly he took that. And I mean, you will have had those setbacks as a player. How does that? Is there much crossover in terms of those emotions you felt then, what you could do about it, and this when you're getting that kind of setback as a coach?
Yeah, I suppose I'm a massive believer in, you know, life's a journey and you've got to learn from emotions, from mistakes, from good things. And probably the last time this happened was when I left Saints and moved to Warrington. And I dare say I was a kid when I was at Saints, so probably getting left out of the Challenge Cup final, I probably, you know, spat my dummy out and wanted to move. So I have learned from that, and I suppose if I was a bit older, I probably would have took a breath and worked out what was needed to go forward to stay at Saints. It kind of them emotions now where I've not, you know, spat my dummy out. I'm still an employee of Warrington Wolves, and I will be until anybody else says anything different to the end of the year. You know, as in any walk of life, there could be a time where I might get offered a job tomorrow, and now I've got to take that into consideration. But regarding, you know, setbacks, you learn from each one. You know, not only in sport, but in any walk of life. I lost my mum what was it? 6 months ago now, I think it was. And so you learn from that emotion as well. And, you know, it's important with any kind of emotion that you speak to people and tell them how you're feeling, and you know, speak to people who you trust, and they listen and talk about emotion, and that sometimes is invaluable when things are like this, and that's what I've done.
I was going to ask you about your mum, actually, and I remember texting you when you said what had happened before Christmas, wasn't it? During the lockdown time, and I mean, I really felt for you, and I just wondered when I found out what was happening with you in Warrington, whether in a sense you'd kind of been on this emotional journey kind of a few months before that anyway, given what would have been going on in your head after losing your mum.
Yeah, for sure. And still on it. But like I said, I've said numerous times, life is a journey, and there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. It's about making sure that you've got the right people around you at the right time, and you know, that support network's key. Listen, there's going to be times where I'm going to take a massive dip. That's my character. But I'm on a good track at the moment. Yeah, there's also obstacles being thrown my way, but that's a challenge. That's a challenge you've got to take head on. And life's all about, you know, it's all about learning and moving forward.
We'll come back to some of this at the end, but you mentioned in passing a glimpse of what the young Lee Briers was like. So let's hop back to talk to that person. And even before, I guess, even before you were trying to get into the Saints team, you took a big leap, didn't you? Because you went to another country. You went to France. You went to Carcassonne. There was a few of you went over there as a lad. And from what I've read, you talking about that seemed like a very big year in your life when you were a teenage boy living at home with, you mentioned your mum. You were living with your mum and dad, weren't you? And then suddenly you're over there in a different country playing rugby league against big Frenchmen.
Yeah, and if anybody knows me, I was a mummy's boy, still am, and mum and dad did everything for me. Well, I mean everything. So me to go over and go and spend time in France, in a different country, playing, you know, for a great team, Carcassonne, out my comfort zone. It was a big jump, but it was a plan, something that I needed to do to take the next step. You know, I was just coming out of the academy. I'd just been appointed the A-team coach, which was the old reserve team back in the day, for that following season. So I thought, and I'd never even played against men before, I'd only been playing against under 18s. So I just thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to go and get some experience against fully grown men for when I was to come back in the January and play for the A-team. So it was a fabulous time, you know, 3 months. I think it was just over 3 months I was out there. My missus Vicky come out after, I think, the first month. She was only meant to stay for a week. She ended up staying for the next 2 months with us. So we had a ball of a time, actually. My daughter was conceived over in France. So I honestly look back on them times with fond memories, and, you know, say that was probably the making of me, you know, going over there. And I turned up, I remember, Thursday evening, about Thursday, 4 o'clock. They gave me the keys to a car. I'd never even drove a car in England, never mind in France. It was on obviously driving on the left-hand side. It was just a crazy time, but they looked after us so much. It was just unbelievable. I've got really fond memories of, like I said, been back a few times and played in Carcassonne. Some fans, when we played in Catalan, drove all the way down and presented me with a number 6 shirt for their team. And yeah, it's a fabulous city, and we love it as a family.
That tells me a lot about your attitude to transition, actually, and your willingness to embrace fear and take leaps, you know, off the back of all those emotions that you've detailed, that you've been feeling, the anxiety, the worry, the shock, and a little bit of anger. Actually, when you do stop and reflect, you do have that willingness to take a jump, and you did it from a very young age because that was what you needed to do. And there must have been something inside you that thought, this is going to turn out okay.
Yeah, and again, it's you know, I'm a big believer in if you don't try it, you'll never know. I use that in my coaching philosophy. The only way you get better is making mistakes, and, you know, again, life is experience. And for a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid to go over to France and play over in France back in the day, it was just a great opportunity, great experience. And I will say as well, I was earning £29.50 on YTS at Saints, and suddenly me wage bumped up a bit, so that might have helped as well.
But you could have stayed. You said your other half went over and extended her stay. You could have extended yours because they wanted you to stay on, right?
Yeah, they offered me a 3-year deal. It was it was crazy, and I think back then it was around about £50,000, which it's mental money for France, and a house, swimming pool, a car, even though I didn't have a license. But I know I was very close to agreeing that deal. And I'm a big believer in fate, and I come back, and we come back for Christmas, and I was just meant to stay home for 2 weeks and then go back to France. But in the meantime, Wigan were playing, Saints were playing Wigan in the Norway Challenge, and I don't know how it happened, but I ended up making my debut at Central Park, and then from that game, Saints wouldn't allow me to go back. They wanted me to obviously move up into the first team. So it's fate that come home for Christmas and I get pushed into the first team, and as I said, the rest is history.
But on the fate thing, I mean, your belief in fate, should that not have dictated that you then came home from this spell of this boy having his, I guess, boy becoming man in France, and you decided to crack on with your hometown club, St Helens? But surely fate would have dictated that was the launch of a very successful career, which you did have, but that would have been a successful career with St Helens, and that didn't happen. No,
exactly right. And I never thought that I would ever play for anybody but St Helens. St Helens boy. The Nosey Road ground was like my church. People go to church on a Sunday. I used to go to Nosey Road every single night, and I used to climb over the fence, and I used to kick goals on a night time. Or we used to, as kids, we used to play hide and seek in the stands. To the point where the groundsman used to be chasing off. Oh, well now I was on first name terms with the groundsman. I was like 15, 16. So I was a cheeky kid from over the road, and that's the way it was. St Helens was my life, and and not once did I ever think I was ever good enough to play for them. I used to just think rugby league was fun. Never knew you could get paid for it, and here I am, playing, living out my dreams.
Why did you not think you were good enough?
I got signed really quite late, so I got signed on my 16th birthday, where everybody else was getting signed 14, 15. I wasn't the biggest, but I was playing for St Helens town team against Wigan at Nosey Road, and I got man at match that game, and the scout come to me afterwards and said, "Listen, we want to sign you." I just loved the game, and I wasn't the biggest. I was always probably one of the skillfulest, but around about my 16th, about 15 and a half, 16, I started to grow. So I was probably only about 5'4", and then I grew to what I am now, 6'4".
Yeah,
and grew to just short of 5'11". So that then my late development, and then they said, "Listen, we want to sign you," and I would have signed for nothing, but well, I basically did. They gave me a tracksuit and 2 season tickets. Well, it was just unbelievable. I remember the day when I signed on in the director's lounge, and straight off then to meet my mates on the bowling green down the road and have a game of rugby on a night like we did. It's just everything I'd ever dreamt of.
Do you remember the day then that you left and the Saints dream was kind of over before it really got going, and you were off to pastures new, which was, you didn't know then, but it was going to be your home for 25 years?
Yeah, I remember it as clear as day. And I remember the incident, what actually just going probably before that, when we was playing against Wigan in the Challenge Cup, and Bobby Golding smashed Neil Calvi around the head. Well, I was in the stand that day as a supporter, as an academy player, and when he smashed him around the head, I'm cheering and going berserk like everybody was. And I didn't know that actually that incident was going to change my life forever, because without Bobby Golding getting sent off and banned for 8 games, I would have never got my chance. So it was a whirlwind from basically everything happening in, I think it was about 6 months of me going to France, coming back, and then playing in the first team, where I wasn't even probably the best halfback in the A team. We had a few in front of me, but somebody somewhere has seen that I've got a bit of talent and put me there. And then I think it was 6 or 7 games in that Bobby Golding was coming back, and he was gonna come back for the Wembley game, which he's obviously got no problem with. He was the best scrum half in the country at the time, if not one of the best in the world. And he was a fantastic mentor to me, Bob. Not many people know that. He used to come in on his days off, and he used to drag me in with him doing gicking and stuff. So got a lot of thankful things I need, with Bobby. And then when I didn't get picked for the Challenge Cup final, my last game was against Wigan at Central Park. I think it was the first time Saints had beat them in about 14 years, and I got man at match, and somehow Warrington got wind that I wasn't going to play, and they come in and offered Saints a great deal for me at that time, and Saints wanted me to sign a professional contract, which money's never has been, never will be the reason why I do this. But they offered me, I think, about 6,000 to turn full time, and Warrington got wind and come and they offered me the number 7 shirt and a good deal on top of that, which we at the time, obviously my missus was pregnant with our first, and we wanted to get onto the house ladder, so property ladder. So it was a great offer that I could never turn down. And again, I never ever wanted to leave St Helens, but I think certain things dictated that I did. But it was probably one of the best things I've ever done.
Well, you started a career that ends up with you being a Warrington Wolves legend. I mean, how do you reflect upon the extraordinary career that you went on to have with Warrington?
It's crazy, absolutely crazy. I owe Warrington, I owe the game of rugby league everything. I was, let's say, I wasn't the best at school, so there was only one thing I could probably have done, and through this, I've met the most absolute wonderful people through the club. They've given me an opportunity to travel the world. They've given me an opportunity to have a lovely house what I live in. They've given me absolutely everything. They've made me into the man I am. But it's given me some great satisfaction as well, playing with some great players, and that's something what I can look back on 25 years. It's a fabulous time. I've had some ups, some downs, some in betweens, and I really think, and I thank them for that. They've set me up for the next 25 years, what's going to be even better, because I've got an unbelievable amount of knowledge on this journey, which can only be a good thing, whether that be in rugby, whether it be in business. I've learned a hell of a lot, and probably I used to say, I was gutted that I didn't do well at school and get the grades, but with the knowledge I've picked up over the years, I probably couldn't have done that in any other business.
An incredible amount of success on the pitch as well. I mentioned the 3 Challenge Cups and the Man of the Match awards, the Lance Todd, and I can still remember you punching the air when that Man of the Match award was read out over the loudspeakers at Wembley in the middle of a game, and I can remember you celebrating it like that because it meant so much, right?
1,000,000%. Yeah.
Are you taking yourself back there now?
Yeah, because I've got reasons for that, and it's just like we grew up on Challenge Cup, and the Lance Todd's the best man of the match to win, ban on in my eyes, and it just takes me back to being a 4-year-old kid all the way through. Every time I played on any field, it was I was playing at Wembley, so I look at the list of people who's won it, and it might sound selfish, but it's just an unbelievable club that I'm in, and this little, this person, this little shit, I was actually was successful one day, and I'm proud of that.
I'm struck by how how powerful your emotions about it are all this time on. That tells me so much, Lee. It really does.
Yeah, it's. I suppose once you want something so much and you achieve it, it's so rewarding. And I try to tell that, you know, you can achieve anything you want as long as you're willing to work hard. Yeah, and it was a long time working hard to get that dream.
I just want to join up a couple of dots in terms of the person you are and the person you were. And you've just said a couple of things that I want to kind of join up of how you were, the little shit you were, and how the career and how Warrington and your time there has made you the man you are. So I'd like to try and chart that transition if we're able to put it together, and, you know, get into what were you like as a player, and what were you like as a person while you were playing, do you think?
Oh, I'm a player, I was, you know, off the cuff, you know, carefree maybe a bit, but always put the team first on the field. Probably didn't put the team first as much as I should off the field. And yeah, I can look back now and I can realise, and I can speak about it, because yeah, I wasn't great, but there's reasons for that. And you know, this past year in lockdowns, I know it's been hard for COVID, and we've lost a lot of deaths, a lot of people to it, and it's actually been an unbelievable learning year for myself. You know, I finished drinking of New Year last year, so I had a lot of time to reflect, and part of that reflection was, you know, I didn't really drink anyway for probably the last 10 years. I've probably drunk once, maximum 2 times a month, and I suppose it's like when you're at school, or when somebody says you can't. Well, I was the one where I was saying, "Oh, you can't, can I?" Well, I can, and I look back now, and when I review what I used to be like, and there was a big purpose. What's the word I'm looking for? It was like a big beacon, really. When I used to drink, it used to be when we used to get beat.
Yeah. So
I wanted to hide the emotion. I understand now. I wanted to hide the emotion of that disappointment. So how would I do that? Would I go and have a drink? Well, back in 2000 to 2000, probably 5, 6, Warrington didn't win many. So that, you know, I used to drink a bit. Now, when we won, I was fine. I got my high. I was at peace with it. I didn't have to get rid of that pain. It's like, you know, Wembley. We won at Wembley. Yeah, we had a drink after Wembley, but I wouldn't go and kick it on for days and days, because I'd done it. I got my high. I don't need to hide any pain. And, you know, with not drinking last year, in the whole of, you know, from New Year's Eve, and then obviously my mum passing away in November, it's really, again, it's fate, me not drinking, because if I would have been drinking and feeling that pain of my mum passing away, I would have gone off the rails. 1,000,000% would have gone off the rails, but I didn't, and I wasn't drinking, and I felt every emotion. I could think clear, and you know, I organised everything around the funeral. I've got three older brothers and an older sister, but I took it on myself to organise it, because I was in control of everything, my emotions, and you know, I'm never going to say I'm never going to drink again, but
yeah,
I'm one of these, and you do it in any sport. You binge drink because you don't get many opportunities. So I'm probably better drinking 2 or 3 pints every night now than going having that big one, because the big one takes about 2 or 3 days now. Now that I'm like the wrong end of 30, but it's that we touched on it about the 25 years I've had at Warrington.
Yeah.
Well, then 25 years have set me up for the next 25 years. I'm a better person, better man, better father, you know, and that's hopefully going to lead me to the next part of my life.
I'm so pleased you want to talk about alcohol. And I was struck actually by, I asked you then, what were you like as a player? And you gave me a long answer about booze, which really strikes me. Now, I mean, I'm on a similar journey, as you know. In fact, we did the same thing at the same time, right? Yeah. New Year's Eve 2019, last beer I've had. Same for you.
Yeah.
And you're still sober.
No, I did have a drink on my mum's funeral, but it was, a few drinks. But take it all leave. It's 6 months past, so it's like I didn't really count it as a drink because it was a toast to mum. But I could quite easily have a glass of wine today, and that'll be it again for another 2 years. But it's the choice I take not to, and I just find it. It goes back to I didn't really do it because, again, I could, since I've retired from playing, I could drink as much as I want, but there was nobody telling me I couldn't, so I didn't really do it. It's like the naughty school kid. I
remember you telling me. I drank as much as I did as a player because we were told we couldn't.
Yeah.
And now you've got your own time, and it's fascinating because you could spend all day, every day in the pub now if you wanted to.
Every day. Every single day. But I'd never become a golf pro then, so I can't do that.
And when you said off the field you didn't put the team first as much as you should, are you talking about the fact that you didn't look after yourself?
Yeah. You
went out boozing too much when you were playing at the height of your career?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was too much drinking. It's just that, you've got to be ultra professional. I suppose I played in a different era as well where you probably could do it. But, looking back, would I change anything? Definitely not.
So, effectively what we're talking about is a huge lifestyle change, a lifestyle transition from, certainly from my point of view, I've made just enormous changes in my life, and it was for mental health reasons. But I do look back and wish I'd have done it a lot sooner than I did. But the way you were, and you said a bit of a maverick on the pitch and a bit off it, that was part of that was you.
That was my makeup.
So perhaps you wouldn't have been the player you were, perhaps, if your lifestyle was different back then.
I dare say I wasn't, because I get this question asked a lot, about training. Now, I used to train hard. Oh, you got to train hard because it's the game we live in. But you know what? I used to do a lot of video analysis, so I used to get my work done in my head because I could take as much as it in. Now, other people can't. They can't take 10 minutes of video in. Now, I could take 10 hours in, a regular. So I used to do a lot of that stuff. And they say, what, you didn't train, you never train really hard. But, I did train hard. I've lost my train of thought now.
But you were able to manage what you needed to do.
Yes.
To train.
Yeah, for sure. But that was the type of person I was, and I did try it the other way, where I trained the house down, absolutely trained as hard as anybody else, and I kept getting injured. And I used to say, well, that's not for me, is it? But, some people are like that. Some people are they don't train that hard, but they play unbelievable on the field. I've seen it all the way through my career. But nowadays, there's more athletes than players.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Were you ever bothered what people thought of you?
No.
And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. Although I remember, I'm fortunate that I've got to know you, probably more since you stopped playing. But I remember when I got to know you when you were playing, it was Briersy rather than Briersy. It was the lad you'll be out for a drink with after a game, and he'll probably be the best player on the pitch during the game you're commentating on.
Yeah.
Did any of that stuff bother you?
No. Not at all, because, and you'll well, I hope you agree. I'm not that person. I'm
No,
not.
well, no, I know, but that's what fascinates me. And you know,
Yeah,
having had similar battles myself in recent years between, character versus reputation, and knowing in yourself what kind of person you are. So actually, it doesn't matter what other people might say about you. But to me, it always has done. I've always cared far too much, and I look at kind of your strength of mind, if you like, and I wonder if that was actually. Were you bothered when you were playing in front of the South Stand at Leeds and everyone was
abusing me?
Yeah, and I was one of them. And so you're laughing, so you must have loved that, right?
Love it. Well, if I weren't doing anything right, they wouldn't be abusing me. They were worried, and it's not big-headed. It's not being arrogant. If they're not abusing me, I mustn't be doing that well. So that's the way I used to. And I used to thrive off that, thrive off it. Obviously, it affects you sometimes, but I go back to your support network and your build. As long as the people who are close to you understand you and they know the real person, well, it doesn't really matter about everybody else. And I've come to realize you can't please everybody. You can't do it. It's impossible. So you've just got to be true to yourself. And I get it all the time. God, you're all right, aren't you? You're a good kid. Yeah, but not many people. I don't let many people in. I've got to have a network of people where, I'll have a drink with anybody. Back in the day, and pint with anybody, but to be real close, I've got to really, really, really trust people. But yeah, I'm not that bad of a person. But yeah, that's good.
No, you're not, and I have to say, it fascinated when I got to know you how different you were from the person I thought you were, and I ended up hating myself for that, because that's me gaining a perception without actually knowing somebody.
Yeah.
And then the strength of mind for you. Someone once said to me in the last couple of years, when I've been going through stuff that I've been going through, and said, you need to develop the strength that some people are going to dislike you, and that can't affect, that's just them. That's on them. That's not on you. And that's something I struggle with. So I love talking to people like you who seem to be able to deal with it so well.
Yeah, and again, you there's always going to be somebody who wants to knock you down, and it tends to come through jealousy. They're only doing it because they can't do it. George, you're a great presenter, so there's going to be people who's going to knock you because they can't present like you present. There was with me, half of these people who want to knock me is because they were jealous, because they couldn't do what I was doing. I was living their dream, and along the way, I was probably harming their enjoyment, because if my team beat their team, well, the emotion, what they will be feeling is not very happy. So, you can't worry about people who really don't matter to you, I suppose. And, I am a caring person. I'm a very emotional person, but that helps me as well to be emotional and not to hold it in. And if I'm feeling it, tell somebody, and I do it regularly.
But have you always been like that? There's a very clear distinction with you being a great example in terms of how people may have perceived you at various points of your life and your career, and the kind of person you actually are. But I do sense there has been a transition in you as well. The kind of person I'm speaking to now might not necessarily have been the kind of person I would have been speaking to at the kind of the start of your career.
1,000,000% different. But that becomes, you become that with age, with knowledge, with experience. And like I always go back to it, is that part of my career, the playing part, was awesome, because Lee Briers at 42 can understand Lee Briers at 25. So what I do as well with that, I use that as my experience with coaching. Everybody's got choices. Some of them choices, what I chose, didn't work out for me so good. So I can use that experience with the players I coach now. You've got choices. Maybe don't take the same ones I did, because they work great for me. Would I ever tell somebody, you mustn't do this? No, because that'll be, an hypocrite. I just say you've got a choice. Don't make the same mistakes I probably did. So then I'm helping out of my, if Lee Briers didn't play for Great Britain because he was perceived to be not a good professional, well, if I can use that to help somebody else to play for Great Britain or maybe around the line, well, I'll take that. That's part of my journey.
So your experience, what you're saying, your experience and your transition as a person, as a player during that period has kind of shaped the kind of coach you are now, in terms of how, I'm just imagining you coaching a young Lee Briers, and would I don't know, would you try and shackle them? Would you try and let them be? You've said you try and advise them.
You could only advise. You've got to gain the trust, and, I wouldn't shackle them, no. Again, it's their journey. It's that person's journey. It's their life. You've got to give them, you guide them through my own experiences, but not be too, this is how I did it. This is how I didn't do it. And it's their life. It's bigger than just rugby league. I try to educate them on life, being good people, whatever that may be.
And in a way, and certainly in your experience, I suppose as well, some of the biggest changes you can make along the way are because you've got things wrong and because you've made mistakes. Otherwise, you would just carry on doing the same thing.
Yeah, you learn. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you can make mistakes once, twice, 3 times you're a dickhead. I've made a few mistakes, but again, I don't regret it. I use it as experience. I use it as knowledge, and to not do it again, to help people who I could probably see who's doing the same thing, who's going down the same path, and help them. I've got a tremendous bank of knowledge what hopefully moving forward I can use.
Just a couple of things before we get to the end of this chat, which has been absolutely brilliant, by the way. And I really appreciate your time, because I know you've been playing on the golf course with Eddie Hemmings and Paul Sculthorpe, so you've been having a horrible day.
Yeah, I'll probably go out again after this and go and do some practice.
Probably the biggest change and the biggest transition that any professional sportsman has to confront and take on is when the playing days come to an end. So I do want to ask you about how that period was. I mean, for you, if I recall, it was injury that brought to an end to your playing day. So just take me back to that period leading up to that, what you were going through when you knew it was probably going to be it, and when you had to make the decision, and just give me a sense of what that period was like, because that's probably the biggest change any professional sportsman will have to make in their life.
Yeah, it certainly was. It happened 2013 in around January. I was getting some pain in my back. Generally, where you get a trapped nerve in the back under your shoulder blade, and just thought that's all it was. And played in Benny Westwood's testimonial against Wigan, and I took a bang on it, and it was just really sore, and thought nothing of it. So the next game, I got an injection in it, pain, because every time I coughed, it was like excruciating pain. And then we played Wigan 2 games into the season again, and I made a tackle, and I just got shooting pins and needles down my hands. And I said to the physio, I said, I've got pins and needles all in my hands. And he just looked at me and went, oh, that's not your back, that's your neck. So that was on the Friday. On the Monday, I went for some scans on my neck, and the surgeon said straight away, he said, oh, you've got a slip disc, and that's on your spinal cord. You're going to have to not play for eight weeks. So, bloody hell, I've just done 3 months pre-season, I'm out. So I said, can we not get a second opinion? So we went to another surgeon, got a second opinion. He said, you've got a prolapse disc, it's on your spinal cord, exactly what I knew. You're going to have to miss 16 weeks. I went, oh, Jesus, can we not have the first one back? So basically, I had 16 weeks rehab, trying to, they said I might be able to pop it back in, the prolapse disc, pop it back in, but if not, we'll have to have surgery. So after about 14 weeks, I thought, oh, I feel great and whatnot. Went back to the surgeon, he said, brilliant, it's gone back in, carry on playing. So carried on playing. I think I did about 10 straight weeks, playing in London, down in London, beating them 68-0. Broke through after about 10 minutes to go, and I come up to the fullback, and I hit Richie Myler, the fullback whacked me, and I whiplashed, and the pins and needles started again. So I just said to the physio, I've got a bit of pins and needles, but it's not too bad. He said, well, listen, keep me updated on it and see how we go. Well, you know, I was lying. The pins and needles were horrendous. But we were coming up to grand final. We knew we had a really good team, and we knew that we might have a real chance of taking this out. So basically for about another 6 weeks, I lost my full right hand, and I didn't do weights. So they couldn't tell that I had no tricep. And my right hand, I couldn't turn the bottle on, the cap on a bottle. I just lost all nerve. So I'm thinking, there's something bad. But you know, I can see the grand final. I'm lucky enough we got to the grand final, and we were beating Wigan, smashing them. We got a couple of injuries, and I remember tackling Liam Farrell. It's probably, don't laugh, George. I did make a tackle. And I think he's Liam's. I tackled him when he landed on me. Both my hands just stuck like this, and they were in spasm, and I couldn't get off the floor. And I thought, oh God. Anyway, cut a long story short, after the game, I said to the physio, listen, I've been leading you astray. I've been lying, and showing him. And he went, wow. He said, let's get it scanned. So on that Saturday, we got it scanned the next day, and I knew there was something wrong, but the surgeon was away for a month, so I couldn't get the results. So 5th of November, went back and seen the surgeon, and as soon as he looked at him, he just looked at me, and I knew straight away. And this time I had 3 prolapse discs, what was on my spinal cord, and he just looked at me and said, you can never play sport ever again, contact sport. And whew, I knew anyway that it wasn't great, but I thought there would have been a way around it. And he just said, so I burst into tears, and he said, listen, and I'm really thankful that he did. He said, yeah, you're upset and whatnot now, but you're very, very lucky, because you could be sat here in a wheelchair. You're literally millimeters off cutting your spinal cord, because you've got 3, not just 1, you've got 3. So that's why my arm literally couldn't use my arm. So I had the operation. They took two discs out, replaced them with metal discs, and left one in because it was that dangerous of an operation. And yeah, that was it, done. Dark, felt really dark times. But I was lucky enough that I'd already started my coaching that year. And Warrington, I was only going to play for 1 more year, and Warrington pushed that contract forward. So I went straight into coaching, which the transition helped me a lot, helped me a hell of a lot. I dare say without that, it would have been some rough times. But Warrington were fantastic with me in transitioning me into a coach. Tony Smith was fantastic, and Simon Moran, and I can honestly say I've never missed playing. I've never missed it. Even when we played in grand finals and Challenge Cup finals, when I've been coaching, I've never thought I want to be out there. I've always thought, I'm happy and content with my career. And also, if I was one of those players who thought, I can still do it, it wouldn't be fair to the kids what I was coaching. That wasn't giving them 100%. And I really believe, the coaching helped me. But when we spoke about golf, and, I love to play golf, but I only realised in lockdown last year that how much golf saved me. Because when lockdown come and I couldn't play golf, I could feel myself struggling, because I didn't have that competition to go and play, and playing against a golf course, playing against a card, playing against somebody else, and that's what I really stuck my teeth into after finishing rugby was golf. I love it, absolutely addicted to it. But that helped me because it gave me another focus, and I want to get as low as I can, which I've got a goal to get to scratch. And when I finished playing rugby, I think I was off 11, and I'm off 2 now. So it's going in the right direction, but it's massive for me. Just I can put my phone.
No, we laugh about it, but it's replacing that purpose and that focus.
Yeah.
A lot of people. That's why a lot of people struggle.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. You look at playing in front of 86,000 at Wembley, But when you're playing and you've got a 4-foot putt, it's just way more nerve-wracking. And you've got a 4-foot putt to win the match. You know, it's an unbelievable buzz, and that's what I've got from it. And yeah, it's kept me sane. That's why I've got to do it. So that's why I tell the missus I've got to do it 7 days a week, twice on a Wednesday.
Do you miss, just a couple of final thoughts, do you miss the adoration of being a hero, and that you mentioned 86,000 and all those chanting your name and cheering for you? Is there an element of your ego that struggles with not having that anymore?
No, I honestly don't. It's not me. Yeah, listen, I'd be lying if you didn't like it and love it and you're fed off it. But it's not the person I want to be. It's not I don't want to be in the spotlight. I just want to live a normal life to help people, and I don't want anything back from it. And obviously the job I'm in, there's going to be people who I'm going to, give joy to. I get it, but it's not why I do it. I do it to help people to become the best people they can, not just rugby players.
Which brings us pretty neatly full circle. And I'm struck by the conversation that you've just like blow by blow detailed with your specialist telling you that not only will you never play sport again, that you also could have been paralysed. And I'm just thinking how I'm bringing it back to where we started with that meeting at Warrington Wolves, telling you that you're losing your job and you're out, which brings us, as I say, full circle. But I can't help thinking how much that first conversation would have prepared you very well for the next one, because perspective wise, the adversity of what you've been through gives you the resilience to deal with the subsequent blows that have come in the last few weeks.
For sure. And I'd be stupid to think this is going to be the last tough conversation I'm ever going to have in my life. It's not. There's going to be some more tough times. I get it. My father, my dad, he's 85. There's going to be a time where I'm going to feel the emotion what I felt 6 months ago. It's there. Unless I go first, but it's there, and you've just got to. I suppose we've all got coping mechanisms. It's kind of preparing yourself for it, and again, having that support network around you is key. It's key, and we're living on a journey.
That was a final thought. How close are you to knowing what might be next, and how do you feel about what the future might hold for Lee Briers?
There's been talks. There's nothing in concrete, but I'm excited to whatever's next. Whether I'm content if I have to walk away from the game. Do I want to walk away from the game? No, because I think I've got a hell of a lot to offer. But rugby league is a small portion of my life. It's scary, it's exciting, and we'll see what's around the corner.
And if you're thinking, blimey, what does the rest of my life look like now? What do you think your mum would say to you?
Proud. Mo, proud. She's proud. And I thank her, because she's made me.
It's been amazing talking to you, mate. This is one of the most enjoyable and interesting interviews I've ever done. So I really appreciate your time. It means a lot.
No, pleasure, George. Thanks for having me on.
Lee Briers, what a great guest. Thank you very much. Take good care, and we'll see you next time.